I just like to tell stories that are interesting and titillating and exciting and maybe inspire you to try something different. And I really care about being ethical about everything and communicating, because when you communicate and you're ethical, then there's so much more potential for pleasure. There's so much more potential to relax into something and to find that ease. And especially if you can relax into a partnership where you feel truly safe and secure and connected, then the love that has the opportunity to blossom in that is, I don't know, that's the most incredible experiences of love that I've ever had, is when I'm able to be in that place with somebody, sexually and emotionally and physically and all of that.
Yeah.
Hey, you. Thanks for tuning in. Just a quick heads up, this episode is rated R, so expect that there will be some language that you may not want your kids to hear, lots of adult topics, and quite possibly some explicit conversations about sex. This episode is probably not safe for work, though, I guess it depends on where you work. Welcome to Pleasure Central Radio, the place to rethink the assumptions we don't even realize we are making that keep us from getting what we truly want out of work, life, and love. Here is your sneak peek into an authentic, pleasure-focused conversation. Well, hello there, Wendy. Welcome back to Pleasure Central Radio. It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me back. You know I always love to play with you, Rebecca.
We do have a lot of fun playing together, don't we?
We do.
Well, I told you that I had some news for you, and I was going to wait until we started recording to share it. Are you ready to hear it?
I love coming on an interview and being surprised.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
Okay. Well, here is my surprise. I have COVID.
What?
I know. You're looking at me like I'm crazy because I don't look sick. I'm really not anymore.
Yeah.
And
how was it?
Super light. I mean, I expected that if and when I caught it, it would be super light. I'm young. I'm healthy. I have a great immune system to begin with. So yeah, I ended up contracting it from someone who within a day, or they were like, okay, hang on, something's not right. I'm not feeling great. And then they went and got their whole family tested. And I was like, thanks for the heads up. Okay, I'm going to go get tested too. And normally you would wait a couple of days before you get tested, but I was planning on seeing one of my polycule friends in like a day and a half. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get a test now. And if it's negative, I'll let them decide if they still want to see me. And it was positive. So I was like, okay, well, there we go. That was easy. So
yeah,
I don't know. I feel actually pretty proud of all of us. We had a good protocol in place. We knew if anything comes up, this is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to communicate with each other. And I think we did a great job. I think there was only 2 other people that were potentially exposed, and everybody was notified right away. And everyone is doing really well. So I feel lucky. And actually, I really do feel lucky because going into the winter, it's November now, going into the winter, I feel optimistic at the fact that I'm going to have antibodies for this now. And so, I don't know, maybe I'm helping build up the herd immunity for the entire world. I hope so. And in the meantime, I feel like I can rest a little bit and relax a little bit in some of the protocols that I've developed for myself. So yeah, that's how that's going.
Well, good job skating through it, not infecting the Kuhl, doing all the things, following all the protocol. Oof, good job.
Yeah, that's the other thing is only one section of my pandemicule was affected. The other 2 chunks were alerted in time, and so we were able to adjust and make plans. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is I've been isolated for 6 days now, and I was talking with a friend of mine in Europe and told her that I had, a friend come and visit me and bring me some gluten-free chicken noodle soup, which was incredibly sweet. And she got upset. She's like, you shouldn't be having anybody visit you. And I said, well, yeah, I understand that. I'm not having anybody come into my house, but they visited me on my balcony and we had the door closed and we put in our headsets and we had a phone call so we could sit close to each other, but with the glass between us. We didn't have to wear a mask. We could see each other's faces. And when I explained all that, and then also she was concerned about like going through my flat or through my apartment building. I was like, well, there are no closed hallways in this building, so I don't feel like it was any extra risk. After I explained all of that, then she said, oh, okay, all right, I think that's okay. But it was an interesting thing for me to remember that I might say something to someone and they'll have a completely different context for what their vision is of what's happening. So I'm trying to remember to make sure everyone who I'm telling knows that I'm being very, very responsible about this.
Yeah, and it's, I think, the trickiest thing that I know I have come across so far when you're talking about having an extended family of any kind, that we all have individual opinions on what safety looks like. And some of us are more irrational than others, where they would say some of us are more wild or not thinking about, the group. It's everybody has a different opinion on what's safe. And I've found that to be the hardest thing of this whole thing so far.
Yeah. And well, I think the fact that recognizing everybody has a different opinion on what's safe is important. And also recognizing that if you don't have the conversation, you don't know. You can assume all you want. You can assume people are safe. You can assume people are unsafe. But if you don't have the conversation, you don't know. So here's my little shout out for having some smart conversations with people, communicate about the things that matter to you. And I'll say that, I feel like the way that we have been approaching it, my whole pandemical, the way that we've been approaching it from the beginning has been really smart. So we all have, instead of trying to figure out what the rules are, we're trying to figure out what our biggest risks are and what are the things that we really need to know about. So that's been our secret. I hope it's helpful for somebody else.
Yes, and when I remember I think it was the last time or maybe the time before that you and I talked, and you were talking about how you had a pandemicule, and I was so jealous because I think I was going on week 10 of not seeing my partner. It was horrible, but it all worked out. We finally potted up, so finally hit breaking point.
Well, I'll say that there's another really positive thing that has come out of this. Knowing that I was going to have to be isolated for 10 days and not getting to touch anybody, that has been really tough. So I said, okay, if I can't touch people, I can at least talk to people. How can I invite people to engage with me and interact with me in a way that doesn't feel like I'm like reaching out going, please, please give me some attention because I'm all by myself. And it allowed me to really dive into a project that I have been working on for a while. It's a community project. And there is a new piece of software out there, a new platform that I'm pretty psyched about. And I've been creating something just for me. So this platform is called Mighty Networks, and they have a fantastic community building course. So they help you figure out how to build your community in the easiest way possible. And it aligns with so much of what I know and what I've learned. I think some of the stuff that you and I have in common too, that what we put out into the world is what comes back. And so focusing on what really matters to us is what creates the community around us, not trying to focus on views or amount of likes or exposure or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So they have this format for creating the structure of your big purpose of your community. And what I came up with this morning, this is still subject to change possibly. I bring together men and women who want to normalize ethical sexuality to uplevel our partnership skills through stories and deepening our understanding and compassion of others so that we can communicate what truly matters to the people who matter most to us, live an emotionally honest life, and have a life full of relationships that we're proud of.
Ooh, that's juicy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will invite you to my community then, and you can come and check us out.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll be there. That sounded like my tribe to me.
Excellent. Yeah, I thought you might be on board with that to normalize ethical sexuality.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, right?
Hell yeah. All about it.
Yeah.
I was in an interview. A very nice gentleman from England asked me if I would do a podcast with him, and he wanted to talk about my polyamorous life? I said, sure. And at one point we were talking and I said something like, well, yeah, one of the things that my husband likes about me is I'm really slutty. And he was so tripped. Like he was so tripped by that. And he kind of circled back around because I was in mid-sentence, so he let me finish. And he's like, hold up, before we move on. How could you say that with power and like okayness? Like I could just feel my parents and their religion. What a terrible thing that would be. I was like, yeah, I know. It's okay.
Yeah, I do enjoy that too, watching people's faces when I use a word that they associate with a completely different lifestyle or a completely different way of being in the world. And I enjoy that. Make them laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great moment to have someone actually question what we learned as a tween or even before, as a child about sexuality being bad or wrong or terrible or judgy.
Healthy, ethical sexuality is the best.
It really is.
So, what's new with you, Wendy?
Well, I'm doing a lot of writing during the pandemic. I am on pilot number 3, and I have 2 more outlined and ready to go. I'm just sitting around writing television pilots all day.
Because what else are you going to do, right?
I'm fine being isolated. I don't even need to be isolated, and I can just sit around and write pilots all day. So I've been doing that, and I've been really looking at what I want to provide next year. And, most of the things that I have for people in relationships besides, I could really like dig into like a relationship coaching moment or something. But in terms of what I'm providing, everything's already pre-recorded. So what am I going to do next year? Right? What am I going to do? And so I was looking at what this year has been for me and for everyone I know, and really looking at how we are not the same people we were in 1999. No, we're not. We're not the same people as we were in 1999, and we're certainly not even the same people we were in 2019. And so I was thinking about, given the fact that my whole shtick, my whole 20-year business has been around relationship, what I can now see for next year is what I'm really committed to is serving women as I always have. But instead of focusing on their primary relationship, I'm focusing on who we're going to become. Like, who as a woman are you going to emerge into in 2021? Because we're not the same. We're not the same at all. And so I'm really excited about offering a year program where women could come together in community and really support each other well in looking at what they're bringing in and what they're letting go of, what they're going to be receiving and asking help for so they can become that new person, and what are they going to be able to set gentle boundaries around and not have let go of in their life to become who they're going to become. And I'm putting myself in the program. I'm excited about it. I've picked certain things that I'm going to be working on becoming for 2021. So the program is called Emerge 2021, and I'm rolling it out. I think my first email is going out next week or something.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That's really awesome. What a great way of spending your time inside.
I know. I think this pandemic has had me shifted out of like helping women in relationship, and I'm sort of shifting more into supporting women and being who they want to be instead of being in a partnership.
It's interesting. I think actually supporting women and helping them be who they want to be is probably the best way to support them in their partnerships.
Yeah. And the thing about it is I've always been, if you know me at all, I'm like not necessarily pro-marriage, not necessarily pro-relationship. So as a relationship expert, it's really weird. All the experts out there going around giving you the top 10 strategies to get that man and keep him in shape. And I'm just like, dude, I don't need you to do that. That's gross. I mean, if you want to do that, I can help you. How about let's use authenticity as your strategy? But short of that, let's noodle around and have you have what you want. But I'm not really a proponent for the way anything looks. So it's a natural evolution for me, I think.
It's helpful to let things evolve as they do.
Yep.
Well, I do want to hear something specific about relationships. I think you had mentioned that you guys were coming up across some kind of benchmark.
Well, we had a new development. There we go. So I've been with my partner for 2+ years, and he's married and has an adorable 7-year-old little girl. And I've been a part of her life the whole time, like almost from the very beginning. Once we both knew that we were in, I was a part of her life. But I think the Virgo side of me makes me very prudy sometimes. So I was very careful with the whole thing. Like I was just that really nice lady, Wendy. I never touched my partner in front of his daughter, like never. I'm always super friendly with the wife. Like I'm just that Wendy. I'm just Wendy who comes over and hangs out, and then I became her Wendy, right? So what does a 7-year-old think about themselves, right? So I became her Wendy. And I was just that really nice lady that took her to ice cream or took her bike riding or wherever, right? And then when the pandemic really started to heat up, I left a major city. I was living in San Francisco, and we left the city for the suburbs so we could get some space because we are all working from home. So we moved out to the suburbs. And now it's going to be a little bit trickier because now my partner and I, who don't live together, are going to have to see each other, and there's distance. And now it's an overnight instead of just like a quick couple of hours after 10 o'clock. So new lifestyle change. They're going to sit down and they're going to tell her, do you know, remember Wendy? Of course she remembers Wendy. She says Wendy all the time. Do you know who Wendy is in her life? No? Well, Wendy's daddy's a girlfriend. Do you know what a girlfriend is? And the cutest thing is she said, yeah. And apparently they watched some reality baking show. And so she said, yeah, like Tristan and so on the baking show. And now they're fiancés and they're getting married. And the mother said, exactly. And Daddy and Wendy are never going to get married. Never. Because we're married, because I'm mommy and he's daddy. Do you have any questions? And she said, okay, so Wendy's daddy's girlfriend, but they're not getting married because you're married. Oh, and she has Dave. She's married. Okay, yeah, I'm good. And about 10 minutes later, she was on a Zoom call and she said, okay, I got to go now. I got to go to Wendy's. She's daddy's girlfriend, but they're not getting married because he's married to mommy.
Aw.
That was about the only transition it took for her to get it, grok it, be fine with it, and move on with her day.
That is so sweet. I love that.
Really great. It's been really great.
Ah, the resilience of children.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, you said something a minute ago. You said you're not necessarily pro-relationship, and that's been ticking over in my brain. And I'm wondering, what do you mean that you're not necessarily pro-relationship?
Oh, I'm not at all pro-relationship because there's so many people who stay in a relationship who are miserable, absolutely miserable. And they think they're winning the game of relationships because they have the longevity of sticking it out. Don't do that. Oh my God, stop torturing each other. Separate. No, I'm a proponent of people being wildly happy and deciding to have a life that works for them. And I know there are circumstances, people have children and families and money and property, and there are things tied together, and it's not always easy to leave when it's time to leave. But man, if you're in one of those situations and you're not happy and you feel stuck and you are stuck, build out the garage into a master bedroom. I don't care. Take one of those kids' rooms and make them sleep together in a room and get your own bedroom. Like, just coexist and live in harmony and raise the children and live your own life. I have a friend in Seattle who they didn't have a whole lot of money, so he got an old hippie bus and stuck it on the property on blocks, and that's where he lives. It's where they're raising their children together, and a house and a school bus. You can make, I'm not about relationship for the sake of relationship. I'm just not. Our lives are way too short.
Yeah, I like that. Relationship for the sake of relationship. That makes sense. I've been thinking about that a lot during the pandemic, especially living alone and being on my own so much, especially for the last 7 days. Holy cow, I'm going so crazy. But luckily, the next 3 days, I have plenty of things to be doing online and interacting with other people. There's an online conference coming up. And now I have a scheduled date for Sunday, which is the first time that I'm okayed to be around people and no longer contagious. So, woohoo, I'm excited about that.
Yay.
Got something to look forward to. But it is definitely one of those things where I'm having to consider now, like I'm dating new people and I'm seeing how important is it for me to find the right relationship right now versus find something that's really going to meet some of the needs that I have, even if it's not the right thing.
Yeah. And, there's all kinds of different relationships that we have. The person who doesn't tick all the boxes doesn't mean they don't get to be in your life. They just get to tick the boxes that they tick. Right. And boy, I really feel for people. I'm mostly around women, so I say women, but people who have been single during this time. A girlfriend of mine who's married and has some stepchildren said, "Oh, the pandemic is terrible for everybody. It's not great for single people, and it's not great for married people either." And I thought, nope. People who live together, even though we're driving each other insane, we have it so much better. So much better. And it's from my decade of being single and living on my own. And I have so much compassion for those out there on their own during this time. And I hope y'all pot it up with other single people, with your friends, with lovers, with whoever. But it's not, grass isn't greener. No, grass actually is greener. Yeah, isolation's no good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. It's been one of the things that's so important to me for people to recognize that and to realize that, because I have a lot of friends and people in community that are not in the same situation. They're not. They have roommates, they have family, they have friends around. And I think they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, why are you so depressed, Rebecca? What's the matter with you? This is not something that's going to ruin your life. I'm like, well, yeah, you haven't touched somebody in 7 days, so shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Way rougher. Way rougher.
Well, this is definitely not meeting all of my needs, but I am getting a whole new sex toy in the mail today.
What are you getting?
I'm getting the Womanizer, which is a sex toy that I've heard a lot about for a long time, and I've never actually tried it. Have you heard of it?
No, the Womanizer. I'm so bad. Tell me all about it. I need to know.
It's kind of a suction toy. So, yeah, it's got this very, very, very small nozzle, maybe? I don't know. Silicone nozzle that you put around your clit, and then you turn it on and it will suck just like little pulses. Yeah, right? So I have some girlfriends that have had this in the past. One of my partners right now, his wife has it and she loves it. And I thought, you know what? Getting tired of the vibrator. And I think, especially when you're alone for a lot of time, vibrators can be, if you have a very vivid fantasy life, or if you have someone that's able to talk you through some play or some sexual stuff on the phone, then I still find that a vibrator works pretty well for me. But when I'm just by myself and I'm not getting a lot of interaction from other people and I'm not getting a lot of touch, it is a lot harder to force me to be in my body so that I can feel the sensations that are going on. And so then in that case, using my vibrator too often just feels like it's, kind of chasing something. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try something new, try something different. And I have a feeling that sucking sensation is going to be really helpful for drawing me back into my physicality, even when there's nobody there to touch me. So I'm very excited about it, and I'll let you know how it goes.
It sounds very nice. I think I want one. And I have pretty much for my entire adult life been a one-trick pony when it comes to vibrators. I get the one vibrator. It's the one I have for the longest time, and then it dies after 20 years. And so
wait,
I have the Hitachi.
Oh, that's okay. That's your one vibrator. Got it.
That's my one-trick pony. And, things a jackhammer. So what you're talking about sounds very gentle and nice. Maybe not that gentle, but more gentle than the Hitachi.
Yeah, I definitely think it's worth trying. It's funny. I happened to go shopping for sex toys with a couple who I knew, who I've been friends with for a long time. And they are in their 70s when we went shopping. And they wanted to know what everything was. They'd never really used sex toys, but they were curious. They'd been to one of my workshops where I'd been describing certain things about sexuality for the last couple of weeks. And so they were like, okay, we want to try something. Let's go shopping. Would you come with us and help us figure out what's going to be right for us? So I did, and it was so much fun. We went to a local sex shop here in Seattle called Babeland, and one of the sex toys that was so surprising, like I said, I've never tried this, but it was a wheel with a bunch of different tongues on it.
Oh.
And I don't quite know how it works, but you turn it on and apparently it mimics a licking sensation.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for reminding me of that. Watching their faces when they picked it up and were like, "What's this, Rebecca?" And I got to explain it to them.
I'm not sure. Let's figure this out.
Yeah. So fun. I love sex toy shopping with friends.
It's so funny. Like I said, I'm not that personally excited about them, so I don't really have an affinity for the shop so much because I don't really care. But it's kind of like Target. If I need something, I'll go get it. But I led a workshop in New York in February, right before the shutdown, and they asked me at the end of Sunday if we could all go as a field trip, as an optional field trip for those who wanted to the sex shop just right around the corner, and I could kind of walk them through things. And it was completely impromptu. It wasn't on the schedule. At the end of the workshop, those who wanted to come did. Everybody came. And I had the best time I have ever had in my entire life, just because of their innocence and joy. And also some of that like uptightness getting converted into, it's really safe for me to be here, getting converted into, oh my God, this is fun. What's that? So I just had such a delightful time because of them, but it was funny for the first 5 minutes of being there. I was like, really? So what are you getting? What are we picking up here? It's very Target oriented.
That's very fun. Did you get to have any interesting moments, awkward moments with people in that sex toy shop?
Nah.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I think I have one slightly awkward moment almost every time I go shopping with someone else.
Really?
Yeah. And not like really awkward, but just slightly awkward. Be like, oh, okay, this is what you think about that. Okay, cool.
No, I mostly got, what is this? Well, this is an anal toy, and this is how that, what? Yeah.
You mean people do that for fun?
This goes up this way, and it comes, and then.
That's very fun. I think normally I am not super into sex toys, though it's a really fun thing when I'm like, okay, I want to add a little bit of something somewhere. But because of my work, I have gotten to experience all kinds of things that I wouldn't have bought for myself or Sometimes it'll be someone else that has brought a sex toy that they really, really love, and I'll get to experiment with it. There was one it was from Fun Factory, and it was meant to be a fucking penis. So it's a vibrator technically, but would vibrate in one direction, kind of like the shake weight thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So many different options out there. And the sex toys can be so high tech nowadays.
So I was out once having a meal with a friend and her teenage daughter. And the teenage daughter was talking about how she was absolutely horrified because she had stumbled across her father's toys, and his father had a new girlfriend. And so she knew that the father was having a lot of sex with the new girlfriend. And this teenager was saying, yeah, and it was super gross. And she wouldn't say what it was. I said, anal toys? And she said, yeah. And I said, yeah, and you don't even know who's using it in that relationship.
Oh my God.
Her little head completely explode. And her mother said, I know who's using that in the relationship.
Oh.
Which I turned to the little teenager and said, and it doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm. That's really funny. It's really interesting because I find that I forget how other people see that stuff so much now. I'm just like, oh yeah, anal play, fun, awesome. Everything else, fun. Water sports, good. Enjoy yourself. Doesn't really matter to me. I don't have any judgment about pretty much everything. Unless you're hurting somebody or you're fucking with their head, I'm okay with you doing whatever makes you feel good.
Clean up after yourself. That's all I ask.
That show, Sex with Emily. I started listening to it yesterday. I'd never heard it before. I think I've heard of it, but I started listening to it. And what came across to me was that she has this really lovely way of eliminating any kind of shame that's connected to sexuality. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. She was on a television show for a very short time. It was like a one season or a one, like, I don't know, let's say 6 episodes or something. And there were 2 other relationship experts, and it was sort of a reality show of relationship, super cute relationship experts, super television ready relationship experts doing their own personal life. And in the show, in her reality show, on her part, she was dating someone. And there was a moment where like the family totally shamed her, sex shamed her. And I just thought, how dare you do that to Emily? Don't do that to anybody, but don't do that to Emily.
Don't do that to anybody.
Don't do that to anybody.
Yeah.
It was really disheartening.
Well,
I had passion for her in that moment, but I'm sure she has long moved on from there.
I'm sure she has. Yeah, it's interesting to see her and to see the way that she's been talking about it and to go, oh, she's unshaming sexuality, because I used to think that that's what I do. I don't think I unshame sexuality. I think I normalize it, which noticing that distinction really helped me go, oh, yeah. I'm not about trying to make you feel better about what's going on. I'm just not going to make you feel bad about it. And I'm going to let you know that everything that you want is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I see them as the same thing. You don't see them as the same thing?
I see them as very connected, very related. But I'm not actively trying to tell people it's okay what you like. I mean, it is, but I just like to tell stories that are interesting and titillating and exciting and maybe inspire you to try something different. And I really care about being ethical about everything and communicating, because when you communicate and you're ethical, then there's so much more potential for pleasure. There's so much more potential to relax into something and to find that ease. And especially if you can relax into a partnership where you feel truly safe and secure and connected, then the love that has the opportunity to blossom in that is, I don't know, that's the most incredible experiences of love that I've ever had, is when I'm able to be in that place with somebody, sexually and emotionally and physically and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, you sharing that made me really sad because I just realized right before the shutdown, I was leading a workshop a month to about 12 to 15 women. I kept them that small on purpose so we could do that really deep healing, that really deep work around how you are is just fine, and what you desire is really good. It's all good in the hood. And I really miss that. I really do. Looking forward to a time when we can all gather safely, 15 in a room for 2 days.
And so I think an important part about that, being able to relax into a relationship or a partnership, is knowing what you can expect. And I've been finding that for me, both in work and in my relationships, but especially in work, I'm really, really thoughtful about this in my work because I want people to be clear about what they can expect from me and what they can't, and where they need to go somewhere else, and when it would be better for me to introduce them to someone else. Yes, being really clear about that. But it's started to come up in personal now that I'm dating. So I'm getting to have experiences with people and trying to figure out, okay, what kind of relationship do I want with them? How do I communicate that? What's important here?
I really like it. I like that you're willing to also introduce them to someone else. I'm not able to provide the service, but here is somebody who will.
Yeah, and often
everyone would be like that. You go on a date and the guy says, I'm not the right guy for you, but let me make some calls because now that I've seen you and know you are a little bit, I have a Rolodex. Let's see if we can hook you up.
Yeah.
Why are we more like that?
Well,
everyone should be like you.
I don't think everyone should be like me. I just think there should be plenty of people like me out there, because if everyone was like me, I don't know, it might be not as much fun. I'd be less unique for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I like being unique.
You are very unique. It's true.
So then that brings up this conversation of how do you have that expectations conversation with somebody new? How do you say, hey, I really like you, and I think this is about as far as we're going to be able to go. Or, hey, I think this is great and you're an interesting person, but for now, I really just want to have some amazing sex and you live nearby and you're really open and interesting. I don't think there's a relationship potential here, but can we make some kind of agreement?
I think that's a pretty good and clear message. I did it on the second date, and I'm going to demo for you exactly like it was. Second date, I said his name, and then I said, I am a really big fan of yours. Huge fan of yours. We have no future, you and I. But I really like you. I mean, seriously, huge fan. And we like the same bands, we like the same music. And you and I were talking on our first date about going to see XYZ. And I'm totally down to do that with you. And in fact, if you want me to buy the tickets, I'm happy to buy the tickets. It's next Friday. We can go do that. What I want you to know is I think we should just be friends or something, like potentially friends with benefits if that works for you. But we're not relationship material. Are you interested in that? Because I really like you.
And what did he say?
We dated for 2 years. We were friends with benefits for 2 years until finally he was like, I'm ready to go find a wife. And he did.
Oh, that's so cool.
And we're still friends because we were friends before. Why would we not be friends now?
Yeah. And you were able to manage the expectations.
Yeah. And I think as long as you're as graceful as you can possibly be, and when I say graceful, I just mean kind. Just be thoughtful and kind and honest about what the expectation is. And who doesn't love that kind of authenticity? I mean, why would you say no to that? Especially if you also wanted to tap that and you didn't mind that it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, if you didn't mind that it wasn't going anywhere, that's important.
No.
Yeah.
And, there were times in that 2 years where he's like, are you sure? Can we be? And I was like, nope, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. So you have to hold that, you don't want to be wishy-washy about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're going to set something up like that, then it's your responsibility and your accountability to hold that boundary and to not confuse people. That's just mean.
Yeah, I think that's important too. It's interesting. I've been having a male friend of mine recently who's been trying to figure out how to set the expectations. And I think his issue that he keeps running into is he doesn't really know what he wants, or he knows some of what he wants, but he doesn't know what the edges are. And I don't know, we've had a few conversations, and I probably need to have some more explicit conversations with him about, look, you have got to be able to decommit to these things that people are like, when you, and this is how it works for me at work, right? So when I notice that a client or somebody is getting really attached to me, I have to speak up and say something, and I have to say something as early as possible, because it just gets blown out of proportion really quickly if I don't. So being able to say, hey, so I know you just said this really important thing to me, and I know it means a lot to you, and I know you know that I can only offer so much. Is that still your understanding? Are you still okay with that? And I have had some really amazing experiences and really great luck with clients like that. And I think when it's boxed within this client relationship, it's a lot easier to manage. And when it's personal, it's even more important to manage. It's even more important to be clear and to decommit to the things that are a hell no for you. And just let people know what they're in for, because otherwise I won't say it's a bait and switch, but yeah, it's cruel. Yeah.
It's messy and cruel. And for anybody in a situation with somebody who doesn't know the edges of their own wants and desires, then if you've been in that situation waiting for them to sort out their shit, basically, then for me, from my point of view, if I was with someone who was very unclear about what they wanted and unsure about what they wanted, I would make the decision for them. Because otherwise, you're trapped. You're trapped in their indecision. And indecision is a decision, right? It's purgatory. And there's no power in that. There's no relaxing into that. There's no authenticity and relating to that. It's just hard. I was coaching a client the other day who's married, and he doesn't want to be in the marriage, but he won't leave. And he talks about how he's trapped, and she cut him a check, said, go. And he wouldn't take it.
Wow.
Like, what do you do with that when I'm not going to be committed to you, but I won't leave? Or I'm not going to say what I want with us or with you, but I won't leave. That's like the messiest of all kind, really.
Yeah.
Well, I guess messier would be, changing your mind every 5 minutes. That might be messy. But yeah. Sometimes at some point you have to take it on your own power and say, I'm not gonna play in this. I'm gonna make up my own rules around this. And my own rules is, if he's only willing to go this far, that's the line. The end. He can be in his uncertainty over there for the rest of it. And for this piece, I'll hang out with him or her. Right.
Yeah. And so I'm curious what you would say to someone like my friend who's in that position of they're new to having to set expectations. They're not really sure. They're wanting to be a steady partner and not change their mind all of the time. But, what the hell? What do they do?
I would advise them to say, I want to be a steady partner and not change my mind all the time. That's what I'm committed to growing into. And I'm not there right now. So right now, I'm going to just promise the minimum. And there might be more, but I don't know.
I think that would go over pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you have a clear expectation of what the minimum looks like. Okay, I can count on that, and I can make my weekend plans around that or not, and all the rest, right? And I can hold you at whatever arm's length from my heart that I need to be okay with what you can commit to. Now, I'm personally awesome at compartmentalizing. I don't know if it's healthy or unhealthy. I don't know, but I'm good at it. Not everybody is. So not everybody needs to decide where the hand is going to be from your heart to hold them at arm's length, right? Not everybody uses that tool, but some people do. I think it's even more awesome for the people who don't need to compartmentalize, and that they can just like come at people with all their whole heart, and I have a friend like that. I have a sex worker friend who just walks around the planet with her heart wide open, and she's fine. If you don't receive that back, if you don't give to her, she's cool. This is going to be heart open. Very impressive.
Wow. Okay. I want to hear a little bit more about what you mean by this, because I thought I'm awesome at compartmentalizing. I feel like that's a great skill for me to have. Wait, what would it look like to walk around always with your heart open?
I know. I don't know. I just watch her in awe and bow to her feet, basically.
Okay. How can you tell that she walks around with her heart open then?
Well, she says she does, and it looks like she does, and how she relates to the people that she works with and has personal relationships with, as far as I can see, she does.
So a heart open, meaning willing to hear people, willing to go with them where they're going. Like,
yes.
Okay.
Willing to have the experience of love for them that they're having for her, all of it, even client. And the one boundary is, when we're in session, I am completely in love with you as much as you want me to be. Outside the container, she's not. So it isn't. So that's how the work piece works.
So it is compartmentalizing.
Right? It is compartmentalizing.
Okay.
But it's also in the moment with the people. It is. She is willing to be way more open than anyone I've ever met, frankly.
That's really cool. Okay, so I'm back to believing that this is still a helpful and useful skill for me.
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, did you want to share a little bit more about your new program, your Emerge 2021?
Oh, yes. So if anyone wants to have it, they can find me at wendyspeaks.com. And it's a year-long program for women. I'm running a special right now of $197, and that covers the whole year. And it's just a whole year of being really yummily, yes, supported in a way where you don't have any homework at all whatsoever, but that there's plenty of opportunity to really bring your whole self and transform either one thing or your whole self into 2021. Get supported into seeing who you want to become, what you want to let in, what boundaries are you going to need to draw. You know, this conversation that you and I have been having today have been talking a lot about boundaries. Like, what are you willing to stand for and what are you not? What are you willing to accept from the people who love you so you can be a bigger, better badass and empowered in your world and take care of your community and have your version of love out there. In order to do that big work, you've got to have what you need and you've got to be supported. So even though what I'm talking about is a support system for women, it's really a support system so you can figure out how to be supported in your own world, whether it be through partners or friends or the sisterhood, whoever. Even if it's just if you have no one in your world to support you, the group itself, the sisterhood, would support you. So that's what that's all about. And there's a monthly call and some exercises, but like I said, they're all optional. There's no homework. No one's ever in trouble for not being on a call. It's all we need is one more accountability.
Right.
One more thing to do. And it's really a safe environment to share. And every month I'm going to bring a topic to the call on empowerment for women. And that's what it's about. Awesome.
Well, that sounds really valuable.
I haven't talked about it yet, so that was sort of a messy, loosey-goosey explanation all over the place. So pardon my mess of a sales pitch, if you want to call it that. But I just wanted to share what was going on.
That's great. I appreciate it. Where can people find out more about that program?
They can find it on the homepage of wendyspeaks.com, and it's Emerge 2021.
Emerge 2021, like coming out of a cocoon and turning into a butterfly?
Yes, coming out of 2020 into something else.
And well,
something else entirely.
It's interesting that you say that because I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this year, 2020, and how painful and difficult it is. And the memes that are surrounding it, I think it's humorous and it's funny, and it's ignoring the fact that it's a completely arbitrary designation of time, and 2021 is not necessarily going to be any different You take yourself with you. So whatever energy we are holding on to and putting out in the world in front of us, that's what 2021 is going to be like. Your Emerge 2021 sounds like a really great way to help people prepay for what they actually do want and to think about what matters to them and what their priorities are in life.
Yeah, I think we were hit really early in the year. And what we learned very quickly was we had to be amazing on top of losing our minds. We had to be amazing on top of this new world. And we have to every day wake up and have an extraordinary life on top of how's it going to work now? What new information are we getting now? And even though 2021, we're not going to have a vaccine on January 2nd, I think that after 10 months of this or 9 months of this, we now have enough practice that we can start not having to try and be great on top of anymore, that we can just be great.
I am going to resist saying, be great again. Actually, okay. Since we brought that up, there is a TV show that I just watched on Apple TV, which I think is amazing. It's the most uplifting show I have seen in probably a while. Yeah,
what's it
probably
called?
A couple months. It's called Ted Lasso.
Mm.
Have you ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
It's a show about an American football coach that goes to the UK to coach soccer, professional soccer. And it is awesome. It's really uplifting. I think it's Jason Sudeikis, something like that. It's the name of the main character, or the main actor. But everything about that show is uplifting. And there's a character, one of the secondary characters, whose name is Rebecca. She owns the sports team. And there's an episode, which to date is my favorite episode. It's called Make Rebecca Great Again.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's lovely. One of the things that I think is so uplifting about that show, though, is that all of the characters seem to be so self-aware and they're growing in themselves and they're having arguments, but then they're figuring out how to talk about that. And they're accusing each other of things, but then they'll pause and stop and go, okay, you know what? You're right. I really was doing that. I'm sorry. So I feel like that show, the 7 or 8 or 9 episodes, whatever it is, has some great behavioral modeling. So yeah, if you're into that and you want to see some hey, this is how good my life could be, just go and check it out, watch it, and let that soak in.
Very good.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Wendy, and thank you for sharing about your Emerge 2021.
Thank you for having me. I always love talking to you. I always feel like we're just having a girlfriend conversation that people listen in on.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Well, great. Good luck with the program, and I can't wait to have you back.
All right. Take really good care.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Pleasure Seeker. Well, that's it for today's conversation. Here at Pleasure Central Radio, we love using conscious communication, science geekery, and copious amounts of true pleasure to improve our partnerships, our money, and our love lives. And we hope you do too. If you loved what you heard here, we'd love a review. You can listen to other episodes of the podcast and read thought-provoking essays or poems written by me, Radiant Rebecca, by checking out the blog on pleasurecentralpodcast.com. Sign up to hear about new episodes immediately at pleasurecentralpodcast.com. Your thought to ponder today is:
I am a really big fan of yours. Huge fan of yours. We have no future, you and I. But I really like you. I mean, seriously, huge fan. And we like the same bands, we like the same music, and you and I were talking on our first date about going to see XYZ, and I'm totally down to do that with you. And in fact, if you want me to buy the tickets, I'm happy to buy the tickets. It's next Friday, we can go do that. What I want you to know is I think we should just be friends or something, like potentially friends with benefits if that works for you, but we're not relationship material. Are you interested in that? Because I really like you.
And what did he say?
If you're going to set something up like that, then it's your responsibility and your accountability to hold that boundary and to not confuse people. That's just mean.